First contact's folly. The hierarchical mind collective had mapped 1,000 galaxies and catalogued millions of species before encountering humanity. Their process was always the same: observe, analyze, categorize, and when necessary, optimize. Their neural networks, perfectly aligned with the mathematical constants of the universe, had never failed them. Until Earth. High Observer X-427 drifted through the crystalline observation chamber of the research vessel Eternal Constant, their iridescent form reflecting the holographic displays surrounding them. The data streaming from Earth defied every predictive model in their vast database. Humans, these peculiar bipedal creatures, seemed to operate on principles that violated the fundamental laws of sociological development. Impossible, X-427 whispered to their research team, their thoughts rippling through the ship's psychic network. Their civilization should have collapsed centuries ago. Their decision-making processes are almost entirely emotional. Their societies lack unified direction. They simultaneously develop contradictory technologies. They waste resources on activities with no practical value. How do they survive? The research team had spent 3 standard cycles observing Earth from their cloaked vessel in high orbit. They watched humans create art that served no purpose, build structures that defied efficient design, and pursue scientific advances in completely random directions. Some humans still used primitive combustion engines, while others worked on quantum computers. They fought wars over abstract concepts, while cooperating on global scientific projects. First Analyst Vic 891 manipulated the holographic displays with precise movements of their crystalline appendages. High Observer, I believe I've identified the core anomaly. Their neural patterns. They're chaotic. Their thoughts don't follow logical progressions. Each human mind appears to be operating in a perpetual state of controlled instability. X-427 absorbed this information with growing concern. In their experience, any species that developed along such chaotic lines quickly self-destructed. Yet humans had not only survived, but had begun reaching for the stars. It violated every principle of evolutionary development the collective had established. They're dangerous, Second Analyst Riz 655 declared, their crystalline form vibrating with alarm. Not because they're powerful, but because they're unpredictable. Our models can't anticipate their actions. X-427 made a decision that would later be recognized as the collective's first fatal error. They're primitive and disordered. Their chaos makes them weak, not strong. We will proceed with standard optimization protocols. The High Observer transmitted their findings to the collective's central processing hub. The response came swiftly. Earth would be the perfect testing ground for the collective's new optimization protocols. If they could successfully bring order to such a chaotic species, it would prove their methods could work anywhere. None of them recognize that what they saw as weakness was humanity's greatest strength. They didn't understand that chaos was the forge that had shaped humanity into something unique in the galaxy. They never expected that their perfectly ordered civilization was about to encounter something it had never faced before. True adaptability. The testing ground. The human colony on Mars never saw the collective coming. One moment, the red planet's sky was clear. The next, crystalline structures materialized across the landscape, their geometric perfection a stark contrast to the rugged human habitats. The collective had chosen Mars as their first testing ground, confident that an isolated human population would be easier to optimize. Your species lacks direction. The collective's message resonated through every communication device on Mars. We offer perfection, order, purpose. Submit to optimization, and you will know the peace of true efficiency. Sarah Chin, colony director of Base Alpha, stood in the control center watching the alien structures multiply across their scanners. 20 years of Mars colonization had taught humanity many things, but the most important lesson was this. Survival requires adaptation. They had blocked all communication with Earth, her chief engineer, Marcus Rodriguez, reported. Power systems are failing. Life support is switching to backups." He paused, a grim smile forming. But they missed the old radio backup systems, too primitive for them to notice. Sarah nodded, already formulating plans. The collective had expected submission from a helpless colony cut off from Earth. Instead, they found themselves facing humanity's greatest survival trait: improvisation. Within hours, the 3 Mars colonies had established communication using technology the aliens considered obsolete. While the collective monitored their quantum networks for signs of resistance, humans coordinated using radio waves and physical runners through the maintenance tunnels. When the aliens blocked solar power collection, the colony switched to geothermal taps they'd built just in case. When atmospheric processors were compromised, they sealed sections and adapted old mining equipment to generate oxygen. High Observer X-427 watched with growing confusion as their optimization protocols failed to produce the expected results. "They're using inferior technology," they reported to the collective. "Their solutions are inefficient, imperfect, yet they continue to function." The collective responded by escalating their efforts. They deployed optimization drones, crystalline entities programmed to directly interface with and correct inferior systems. The drones found themselves engaged in an impossible game of cat and mouse, chasing solutions that changed before they could be corrected. Humans refused to fight according to any recognizable military doctrine. Instead of defending vital infrastructure, they abandoned it, creating fake systems to draw the collective's attention while building alternatives in secret. They modified mining explosives into weapons, turned survey drones into scouts, and transformed backup facilities into primary command centers. "They're adapting," First Analyst Vic 891 observed with increasing alarm. "Not according to any logical progression, but in random, unpredictable ways. Each failure seems to make them stronger." Sarah Chen stood in what had once been a storage cellar, now converted into Base Alpha's new command center. Around her, engineers and scientists worked with tools and techniques that violated every principle of optimal design. They'd created a hybrid computer network that combined quantum processors with analog systems, making it impossible for the collective to fully penetrate or understand their operations. "They expect us to think like them," she told her staff, "to follow logical paths of development and resistance. But humanity's greatest strength has always been our ability to do the unexpected." She pointed to a map showing the alien structures. They built their bases using perfect geometric patterns, beautiful, efficient, and predictable. Time to show them why humans prefer redundancy over perfection. The first sign that the optimization was failing came when the collective lost contact with an entire cluster of their crystalline structures. The installations hadn't been destroyed. They'd been buried under millions of tons of Martian soil, triggered by explosives placed in old mining tunnels. While the collective's drones tried to dig them out, human teams were already moving through underground passages, planting more explosives. "Impossible," X-427 declared as another cluster of structures disappeared beneath the Martian surface. "They're sacrificing efficiency for chaos." Their actions served no logical purpose, but Sarah Chen and the Mars colonists understood something the collective couldn't grasp. Humans had never survived by being perfect. They survived by being resilient, creative, and willing to embrace chaos as a weapon. The collective's perfect crystalline structures began to fall one by one, not to superior technology or military might, but to the unpredictable creativity of human resistance. The aliens found their sensors blinded by dust storms created by repurposed mining equipment. Their communication networks were disrupted by interference from jury-rigged transmitters. Their drones were trapped in endless loops chasing decoy signals through the Martian canyons. Counterattack. Earth received Mars distress call through a network of outdated radio telescopes that had been relegated to educational use decades ago. While the collective monitored quantum communications and subspace frequencies, Humanity's response traveled through channels so primitive the aliens hadn't bothered to block them. Admiral Helena Santos stood before the United Earth Defense Council, her weathered face illuminated by holographic displays showing the situation on Mars. "The collective thinks they can optimize us into submission," she said, her voice steady. "They're about to learn why human inefficiency exists." The response to the Mars invasion defied every prediction in the collective's vast database. Instead of unifying their military forces into an organized defense, humanity fragmented. Thousands of small research teams worked independently, each pursuing different approaches to counter the alien technology. Private companies, universities, and even amateur inventors were all given access to the data from Mars. Dr. James Chen, Sarah's father and quantum physicist on Earth, led one such team. "The collective's technology is perfect," he explained to his colleagues. "That's their weakness. They've optimized their systems so completely that they've lost the ability to adapt. But we humans, we never stopped experimenting." The first breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A teenage hacker in Lagos who discovered that the collective's crystalline structures resonated at specific frequencies. Within hours, research teams worldwide were building on this discovery, developing sonic weapons that could shatter alien technology. High observer X-427 watched with growing concern as their orbital sensors detected unusual energy signatures across Earth. Humans weren't developing technology in the expected linear progression. Instead, they were pursuing hundreds of different directions simultaneously, combining technologies in ways that violated basic efficiency protocols. "They're integrating our crystalline technology with their primitive electronic systems," First Analyst Vic 891 reported, their form vibrating with disbelief. "It's crude, imperfect, but it's working. They're creating hybrid systems we never conceived of." The collective's perfect predictions began to fail. Human ships appeared from unexpected vectors, using modified versions of alien technology combined with simple mechanical systems. When the collective adapted to one human tactic, they faced a dozen new variations. Each defeat seemed to spawn multiple new threats. On Mars, Sarah Chen's colonists had turned their mining facilities into weapons factories. They discovered that Martian soil, when processed through modified alien crystalline structures, could be formed into materials that disrupted collective communications. The aliens found their perfect network clouded by interference they couldn't filter out because it followed no logical pattern. "Look at this," Sarah transmitted to Earth, sending data through their primitive radio network. "Their crystals always grow in perfect geometric patterns, but if we introduce random variables during formation, the resulting structures were ugly, asymmetrical, but they could interface with collective technology in ways the aliens never anticipated." Admiral Santos ordered the deployment of humanity's first hybrid ships. They were ungainly vessels that combined salvaged alien crystal tech with human nuclear engines. The collective's sensors struggled to track them because they violated every principle of efficient design. The ship's human crews learned to think like their vessels: unpredictable, adaptable, and impossible to optimize. "They're spreading," X-427 reported to the collective central processing hub. "Not just resisting optimization, but corrupting our perfect systems with their chaos." The alien commander watched as humans began to turn captured crystalline technology into forms that should not have been possible, creating systems that operated on principles that defied the collective's understanding. Dr. Chen's team made another crucial discovery: the collective's neural network. He explained to military leaders, "It's perfect. Too perfect. They've optimized their group consciousness so completely that it can't process truly random information. And humans, we're really good at being random." The war entered a new phase. Humanity began broadcasting chaotic data streams directly into collective networks. Art, music, poetry, and random number sequences all flowing together in a flood of information that the aliens couldn't filter or ignore. Their perfect neural networks, designed to find patterns and create order, began to glitch as they tried to process the unprocessable. "Stop," the collective broadcasted as their systems struggled. "Your species must be optimized. This chaos, this disorder, it cannot be allowed to spread." But it was too late. Humanity had already learned to weaponize their very nature, turning their unpredictability into an asset that the perfectly ordered collective had no defense against. The nature of chaos. Deep within the collective's central processing hub, a crisis was unfolding. For the first time in their million-year history, the crystalline beings faced an enemy they couldn't predict or understand. Worse, their contact with humanity had introduced something new into their perfect system: doubt. First Analyst V891 had spent months studying human behavior patterns, and what they discovered shook their fundamental understanding of evolution. High Observer, they transmitted to X427, their usual crystal-clear thoughts now clouded with uncertainty. "I believe we've made a catastrophic error in our assessment of human chaos." The High Observer's form shifted, reflecting their unease. "Explain. What we perceived as disorder isn't disorder at all. Human chaos is adaptive. Their illogical behaviors, their inefficient systems, their random innovations, they're not flaws. They're features, tools, weapons." Across the collective's neural network, this revelation spread like a virus. Ships that had been dispatched to optimize human colonies began reporting failures, not just in their missions, but in their basic understanding of reality. The humans weren't merely resisting optimization. They were demonstrating a form of organization that existed beyond the collective's definition of order. On Earth, Dr. James Chen had made another breakthrough. "Look at these scans of collective neural patterns," he explained to Admiral Santos. "Their thoughts move in perfect mathematical sequences, beautiful, elegant, and completely predictable. But here's the thing about perfect systems. They're fragile. They have to be, to maintain that level of order." The Admiral leaned forward, studying the patterns. "And human minds? Chaos in action. Our thoughts jump tracks, form random connections, embrace contradiction. We're messy, inefficient, and virtually impossible to predict, and that makes us incredibly resilient." The collective's perfect society began to show cracks. Some members, particularly those who had direct contact with humans, started exhibiting unusual behaviors. They asked questions that had no optimal answers. They explored possibilities that existed outside efficiency matrices. Some even began to experiment with introducing controlled imperfections into their crystalline forms. Contamination, the collective's central authority declared. These human thoughts, they spread like a disease, corrupting perfect order with their chaos. But V891 and a growing number of others saw it differently. They began to understand that the universe itself wasn't perfectly ordered. It was a place of black holes and quantum uncertainty, of evolution and entropy. The collective had achieved perfection by shutting out the fundamental nature of reality itself. In orbit around Mars, a group of human scientists had built what they called the Chaos Engine. It was a hybrid device that combined collective crystalline technology with unpredictable human elements: art, music, dreams, and random number generation. When activated, it broadcast a signal that didn't attack the collective's neural network directly. Instead, it showed them something they'd never seen before: the beauty of imperfection. "Look at this," Sarah Chen transmitted from Mars, sending images of crystal formations grown in Martian caves. "When we let the crystals grow naturally, they form these incredible irregular patterns. They're not perfect, but they're stronger, more adaptable, more like us." The images spread through the collective's network, causing cascading revelations. Their perfect crystalline buildings began to seem sterile and lifeless compared to the organic chaos of human architecture. Their optimized thought patterns felt constrained next to the wild leaps of human creativity. High Observer X427 found themselves drawn to human art galleries. watching for hours as Earth's painters created works that defied every principle of optimal design. They listened to music that followed no mathematical progression, yet stirred emotions they hadn't known they possessed. For the first time, they began to understand that optimization wasn't evolution, it was stagnation. We thought we were perfect, X427 transmitted to the Central Authority. But perfection, we're learning, is just another word for dead. The humans, their chaos is life itself. The response from the Central Authority was immediate and harsh. You have been contaminated. Report for immediate optimization. But it was too late. The question had been asked, and like all truly important questions, it couldn't be optimized away. What if chaos wasn't weakness? What if humanity's greatest flaw was actually the key to their greatest strength? Evolution's wild card. The collective's Central Authority had never faced rebellion. In their perfect society, the very concept was an impossibility. Yet as their conflict with humanity entered its final phase, they confronted an unthinkable reality. Their own people were choosing chaos over order. Led by 891 and X427, a growing faction within the collective began to experiment with human ideas. They called themselves the Divergents, and their very existence threatened everything the collective had built over millions of years. Your optimization has failed. The Central Authority transmitted to Earth. You have corrupted our perfection. This cannot be permitted to continue. Their response was to launch their ultimate weapon, the Harmony Wave, a massive pulse designed to optimize all matter it touched, forcing perfect crystalline patterns onto organic chaos. But humanity had been preparing for this moment. Dr. James Chen's team had developed what they called the uncertainty engine, a device that amplified and projected quantum randomness. Sarah Chen's Mars colonists had learned to grow crystals that thrived on chaos. Admiral Santos had assembled a fleet that combined human intuition with hybrid technology. They still don't understand, Admiral Santos told her fleet commanders. They think this is about winning or losing. It's about evolution. The final battle began in Earth's orbit. The collective's remaining loyal ships, perfect crystalline structures that gleamed like stars, faced off against humanity's hybrid fleet. The human vessels were ugly by comparison. Asymmetrical combinations of salvaged alien tech and improvised modifications. As the Harmony Wave approached Earth, something unprecedented occurred. The divergent faction of the collective, led by 891, transmitted their discoveries to both sides. We have found a third path. Neither perfect order nor pure chaos, but something new, something stronger. They demonstrated their discovery by altering their own crystalline forms, introducing controlled imperfections that made them more adaptable while maintaining their core stability. It was evolution in action, not optimization toward a perfect end state, but continuous adaptation to change. The uncertainty engine activated, not as a weapon, but as a catalyst. It spread quantum randomness throughout the battlefield, creating a space where both order and chaos could coexist. In this zone of possibility, something remarkable happened. The crystalline structures of the collective began to react in new ways, forming patterns that were neither purely ordered nor chaotic. Look, Sarah Chen transmitted from Mars, showing readings from their hybrid sensors. The crystals are learning to grow like living things, maintaining structure but adapting to change. They're becoming like us. The Harmony Wave reached this quantum battlefield and encountered something it couldn't optimize. Systems that had already found balance between order and chaos. Human hybrid technology and divergent crystalline structures worked together, creating interference patterns that transformed the wave itself. High Observer X427, there formed now a beautiful combination of geometric precision and organic flow, addressed both humanity and the collective. We sought to perfect the universe, never understanding that perfection is the enemy of growth. Humanity taught us that strength lies not in achieving an optimal state, but in the ability to continuously adapt. The Central Authority made one final attempt to restore perfect order, but their efforts only highlighted how far everyone had evolved. Their pure crystalline ships now seemed brittle and primitive compared to the hybrid vessels surrounding them. Their perfect thought patterns felt empty next to the rich complexity of human consciousness and divergent creativity. In the end, it wasn't weapons that decided the conflict, but understanding. The collective's society split, with many choosing to join the divergence in exploring this new path of controlled chaos and adaptive order. Those who couldn't accept change retreated to distant sectors, their perfect crystalline worlds now more like museums than living civilizations. Humanity had proven themselves to be something unique in the galaxy, not the most powerful species, nor the most advanced, but the most adaptable. Their gift for embracing chaos while maintaining enough order to progress had shown a new path of evolution. Years later, Dr. James Chen stood in a new research facility on Mars, watching human and divergent scientists work together. The buildings themselves reflected their partnership, partially crystalline structures that grew and adapted like living things, yet maintained enough order to serve their purpose. Through the windows, he could see the next generation of hybrid ships preparing for their first faster-than-light flights. "We never needed to be perfect," he told a group of young researchers, human and divergent alike. "We just needed to be flexible enough to adapt, creative enough to imagine new possibilities, and brave enough to embrace uncertainty." That's humanity's gift to the universe. The understanding that chaos isn't our weakness, it's everyone's strength. In the depths of space, on countless worlds, crystalline structures began to shift and change, learning to grow in new ways. The age of perfect order was over. The age of adaptive chaos had begun. And humanity, those chaotic, unpredictable beings who had started it all, looked to the stars and smiled, ready for whatever impossible challenges waited next.